comment. Anyone from the member wishing to comment on an item that is not on the agenda, please come forward. Seeing a whole lot of participants, we'll go on to the next. Close public comment and approve the minutes of the Historic Landmarks Commission, March 20th, 2019. So moved. All right. I think you have to be on camera first. All right. Is there a motion first? Yeah. And second?
Second.
All right. Second. Commissioner Vena. All right. Under discussion. Do we have any adjustments, changes, etc.? And I was not here for that meeting, so I will not. But I did watch the tape. But I will not.
I thought the minutes were perfect.
Ooh.
I run a tight ship.
You do. Do you type them too? Dude.
You tried to be on time.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Any changes at all? Oh, we have perfect minutes.
We're ahead of the.
In that case, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? I'll abstain. All right. On to announcements. So anyone for any announcements?
Mr. Chair, I need to leave at 5 o'clock today.
Okay. Any other announcements?
I have an announcement. I must leave by 4:30 today.
All right.
Is this on? I must leave by 4:30 today. I thank the staff for turning my microphone on.
And just as a reminder, we will have quorum if the two of you leave. For some reason, we're not done by that time, but no other members can leave at that point. We need 5 members in order to have a quorum. So.
All right. Oh, Commissioner Uli was here, right?
I believe Commissioner Woolley was here.
Okay. So
He'll
okay.
be back.
His glasses are there.
All right. All right. So any other announcements? Okay, we'll go on to subcommittee reports. Any subcommittees met in the last 2 weeks? I'm trying to think when. Okay, well this is going a little too fast. A little too fast, a little too perfect. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Mahan.
2 weeks ago we discussed the subcommittee to review the new state courthouse, right? And,
Oh.
excuse me. We discussed who would be on the state courthouse subcommittee. There's only 2 of us now that were originally on, Sheila Lodge and myself, and I suggested that Robert Uli would be very good. He doesn't have a conflict of interest because it's a state project, but we were advised that we should have that on the agenda to discuss it, and I don't see it on this agenda either, but it should come onto the agenda so we can discuss that and decide who's going to be the 3rd member of that committee.
So, Mr. Chair, we can have that as a discussion item at the next meeting on
Okay.
April 17th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So now let's go on to item number 1, miscellaneous action item, resolution of intention for multiple historic resources per attachment A. The Commission is requested to adopt a resolution of intention to hold public hearing on June 26, 2019 to consider designating the multiple historic resources per attached Exhibit A as structures of merit. So now I need, okay, so do we want, Nicole, did you want to talk about it at all, or?
I have a question.
Yeah. Okay. We can jump into questions.
Thank you. These were previously reviewed by us.
This is a new list.
I think this is a
Yeah,
new.
this is the list.
It's the new list.
We just got through with one.
This is until June. This is
We're
until June
rolling.
26th.
We're trying to roll them as fast as we can. I didn't get 50 last time, so
Okay.
I'm trying. We're trying to get through the list so that we can be done with the project, but we'll have years.
So are we going to get a package on this?
You will. You can get I always have them all ready before I set the hearing date, so I can give you your packages whenever you want. We have to do it, the hearing has to be 75 days after you set the date.
So we're setting the date with this, we're setting the date for June 26th.
And I
right?
can bring you your packets next time, whenever you want them.
Yeah.
Save this. Right?
If it's too soon, or if you'd rather wait.
Save
I'm
it.
afraid,
Save it?
Unless they want the early bird special.
I will have them ready for you at the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Let me just a second here. Refresh my memory. Now, we took action on a group of projects and are moving them towards designation. But they haven't been designated yet.
Yes, we did designate them on the 20th, on March 20th.
Are there no resolutions, or is there
Those
a mass?
resolutions were,
There was a mass resolution.
well, they each have their own sign. We designated them all at the last hearing, that batch, so now there's a new batch.
And you removed the ones, I watched you remove a lot of my favorites.
I understand that, and those,
I was
and
yelling
they
at
were,
the
the ones that were removed were on the agenda today for, as part of the minutes,
Yes, correct.
so we see that. But we're not going to see those again,
No, they're done,
okay?
Unless any
Those
of them come for landmark.
if they want to be.
That's
Elevated
the only
to
time
landmark.
we'll see them. So now they're officially on the list. These are all.
They are officially designated
yeah.
structures.
So
These
are all
s-
potentials.
Yes.
Potential.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I will
Commissioner
make a
House.
motion to adopt a resolution of intention to hold a public hearing on June 26, 2019, to consider designating the multiple historic resources on the attached Exhibit A as structures of merit.
Second.
All right, second by Mahan, I heard. All right, under discussion, any more discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, motion carries unanimously. All right,
And Mr. Chair, before starting item 2, I would suggest we take at least a 5-minute recess, as we're a little ahead of schedule.
it happens. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute recess. Actually, it's till 55, so maybe a 10-minute recess. All right.
Gentle sweet singing of leaves in the wind, the whisper that calls after you in the night, and kisses your ear in the early light. And you don't need to wonder, you're doing fine. My love, the pleasure's mine. Let me go crazy on you. Crazy on you. Let me go crazy, crazy on you.
he's totally turned around. I'm like, you're back. Welcome back to the party.
We can
All right, ready? All right, let's reconvene. Historic Landmarks Commission. Okay, before I go to item 2, I had actually forgot one little note I wanted to make for the announcements. I want to jump back into it. If any of you have seen, if any of you haven't seen or weren't at the a recent hearing for 7-Eleven Milpas, I think it's worth watching the City Council and also the original ABR meeting. It brings up a lot of the topics that we've been discussing over the last year, especially in relationship from design approval to final. And there's a lot of subtleties, and it made me very aware that what we say here, really, we need to be very careful about how we say it and what we say, because it can and will be used against you in the, in the Council of Law. So we just need to be very careful about how we craft things and what we weigh in on, and making sure that we have both the purview and the way in which we weigh it in on it is very clear to applicants. So,
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And staff, if I might, regarding that point you brought up. Am I on?
Yes, we can hear you.
I think it would be interesting on larger and complex projects, or maybe any project in which compatibility findings have to be made.
Just to clarify, the project compatibility criteria is not findings. It's criteria that you analyze with a project.
Say it again.
It's not findings. So just to be clear, they're project compatibility criteria that are in our ordinance that you look at when you're giving project design approval. Different than our findings, like historic resource findings. Yeah.
You have to, we make a finding,
So,
as I understand it.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Lundvik, if in the code, when you read it, it's not indicated as a finding. It's project compatibility criteria.
Or analysis.
Analysis,
Yeah.
correct.
So the things that we read off of the wall
It's
are not
element.
findings, but are
Yeah, it's
analysis.
different than our, for example, structure of merit findings that are laid out in the code, and you read those findings and state why the current project, for example, for structure of merit, is an enhancement or doesn't impact the resource. These criteria are elements of the project that you're evaluating, and ultimately you're going through them and seeing how the size, bulk, and scale works with the neighborhood, but it's not a finding.
Okay.
What I wanted to suggest, when the commission states that they've reviewed the proposed project and compatibility analysis, and the criteria have generally been met, you're saying that's not a finding? Is that correct?
Their comments, yeah, that's
comments.
correct. Yeah. It's used as a tool, right? To give reference for why you're making that approval. So
The reason I bring this up is because we are accepting we're accepting responsibility for making these the criteria. You know, I won't call them finding. I think it would be wise for the applicant to provide to us.
Well, if I may I cut you off here, my concern is we're going way a little bit deeper in this conversation, and for Brown Act purposes, we're having a very deep conversation on this issue. If it's a discussion that the Historic Landmarks Commission wants to have, my suggestion is something that can be agendized in the next discussion item. So,
Okay,
I think for the purpose of the Brown Act, there's some interesting points here on that. And we can bring up the issues of the compatibility criteria in the Muni Code. I think it's 2805010. But let's leave that for the safety concerns for.
So can we agendize that for a near future
yeah,
meeting?
Mr. Chair, we can look to agendize it for a later date.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next month, and let's not wait like 3 months to get it on the calendar. Can we have the discussion next time we meet?
So, Mr. Chair, the next agenda is pretty full. I'll look to see if I can include on that one. If not, for May 1st.
All right.
And yeah, and I don't know if this will end up turning into a bigger thing, but I think it might be. I think this it's made it very clear that we need to be kind of schooled in this manner in terms of really understanding the nitty-gritty of a lot of these things that are now becoming more and more of an issue. So,
Here, here.
all right. Thank you.
I just as a point of clarification, would you like a staff presentation about project compatibility criteria and the difference of findings, things like
Yeah,
that?
I
that would be
would.
great.
Yes.
Yep. Take us into the weeds.
Let's get it correct. See if we can hold it.
All right. Okay, so now let's go to, we're still 3 minutes early. Let's go to item number 2, 1111 East Cabrillo Boulevard. This is a public hearing to consider structure and merit designation of the Mediterranean-style Vista Mar Monte Hotel, completed in 1931, based on the Historic Structures Report accepted by the Historic Landmarks Commission on January 9th, 2019. Okay. So, all right. So we have our resolution to designate as a structure of merit. Do I have?
I can do a quick
Little
presentation
presentation?
for the
Okay, great.
public, and for just to refresh you all. Based on the conclusions of the report that this commission accepted on January 9th, 2019, the project meets 7 of the criteria outlined in the municipal code to qualify as a structure of merit, including Criterion A, which is the character and interest of value is significant to the heritage of the city. The original hotel building was designed by Walker and Eason, an historically important Los Angeles architecture firm that made substantial contributions to California's architectural heritage. The original hotel building also represents the city of Santa Barbara's last surviving example of a pre-World War II oceanfront resort hotel. Therefore, as an exemplar of Walker and Eason's interpretation of the Mediterranean-style work, and as the only surviving example of an early 20th century resort hotel, the original 1927-1931 hotel building, excluding later alterations, meets Criterion A. And I'll sum up some of the other ones. It also meets Criterion D as an exemplification of a particular architectural style important to the city. As stated earlier, it is the only surviving example of a pre-World War II resort hotel in the Mediterranean style on the oceanfront. Criterion E, it's the best remaining example of an architectural type in a neighborhood. As just restating, it qualifies for the same reasons that it represents a Mediterranean subtype of the period revival movement. Criterion F, the architectural firm, Walker and Eason's contributions to regional architecture is significant and substantial. The firm's commissions include city halls, schools, hotels, as well as public and commercial buildings. In the 22 years they were in partnership, the firm helped define the built environment in Southern California in the 1920s and 30s. Therefore, the original hotel building represents the work of an architectural firm who contributed to the city and state's architectural heritage. And item G, notwithstanding later additions and alterations, which have obscured to some degree elements of the original design, several elements of the building, most notably its prominent tower, represent an assured integration of the Mediterranean-style motifs. And under H, the original hotel building with its distinctive tower forms an integral visual feature of the historically significant East Cabrillo Boulevard Parkway State Historic District. And finally, item I, the hotel building and in particular its tower form a distinct and unique visual feature of the East Cabrillo Boulevard Parkway Historic District that can also be viewed from other vantage points along the beach and the freeway. Therefore, the original hotel building and its tower meet Criterion I. And the report also concluded that the original hotel building, excluding its 1945 additions, has maintained the essential features of its original plan and retains sufficient integrity to qualify as a structure of merit. So that just kind of summarizes what the report, why it would qualify.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if we should have under motion first before we discuss it, but the only question I had was with criteria D and E, and in our thing, I think there's a typo, and it doesn't say style, and you mentioned style on. You say it's exemplification of the best remaining architecture. Both of ours say architectural type in a neighborhood.
Oh, I
it's
see.
It's a re.
Yes, I can correct. I'll correct it
But
and have it re-signed.
and in terms of the style, it also was a little bit questioning in my mind because sort of the main architectural type, it makes sense as a resort, but in terms of a Mediterranean or saying it's the best in the neighborhood, is there? I'm wondering if that should just be dropped or not, just because it has been kind of messed with a bit, and I don't know if there's others in the neighborhood like the Cabrillo bathhouse or others that would be in the Mediterranean family that would be better examples that we couldn't say that about. It was a little bit of a. It was just something I just picked up on, but I wasn't sure if there was. If we needed to say it, or if because it had so many other pieces.
We can, the preparers of the report are here. We can ask them what they wrote.
Oh yeah,
that was
true.
their
Okay.
finding. And
do you mind indulging us, or indulging me?
and I'll correct the reso
Okay.
and reprint it and have you sign it.
Okay.
Thanks for catching that.
Okay. Sorry, this is putting you on the spot for a totally
No,
different.
that's okay.
well,
Pamela
similar
Post at Post
project,
Hazelton Associates. Yeah, I think the reason that we arrived at that conclusion is that it was the only.
Okay. In the
resort.
neighborhood.
In the
close
neighborhood,
enough. Okay.
yeah,
All right,
exactly.
I'm sold.
Yeah.
Okay. Only is best. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Should we just stay?
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. With that one adjustment, typo adjustment, do I have a motion, or do I have? Yeah. I'm looking for a motion, right, and someone who wants to make the resolution designation. Yes. Oh yeah. Okay.
Hand it down here, I'll make the
All
motion.
right.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion of a resolution to designate as a structure of merit Vista Mar Monte Hotel at 11 East Cabrillo Boulevard with the findings
That's all you.
as listed on this piece of paper.
All right. Done. Thank you. Second.
Second.
All right. Session Commissioner Nemec, I saw first. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? Would you like to state your reason for opposition?
I don't think it rises to the level of structural merit, so.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So then we are on to item
3,
3A.
acceptance of a phase 2.
Okay, so this is project design approval for 1111 East Cabrillo Boulevard. We have an A and a B. So we have a proposal for improvements at the Hyatt Centric Santa Barbara. The original hotel building is on the city's list of potential historic resources and is now a historic resource, designated, as it is eligible for designation. Proposals involve reconfiguration of the existing parking with valet spaces to provide for hardscape and landscape improvements, including new green space between the Santa Maria and Santa Cruz buildings, and an outdoor space and wood trellis at the Santa Clara building lobby. Improvements to the Santa Barbara building include removing a portion of the colonnade to reveal the original entry and providing outdoor patio areas connecting to the meeting room and restaurant. So the Part A is the acceptance of a Phase 2 historic structure site report prepared by Post Hazeltine. The report concludes that the proposed project's impacts to significant historic resources on and adjacent to the project parcel, 1111 East Cabrillo Boulevard, and nearby historic resources on the 1100 block of East Cabrillo Boulevard and the 1000 block of Rio Del Mar are potentially less than significant, Class 3. And then the Part B, we'll do Part A first, and then Part B Part B is project design approval is requested. Project design approval will require compliance with the project compatibility analysis, which is not, which we just discussed, and historic resources findings. Project was last reviewed March 6, 2019. So I think what we'll probably do is go A, table it, and then go to B, and then come back to A after.
And then, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to point out that project design approval is being requested today. That's contingent on acceptance of the Phase 2 report.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. And as well, the project design approval, if it is approved, that's an appealable action.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So why don't we start with the report? State your name for the record, please.
Pamela Post, Post Hazeltine Associates.
Tim Hazeltine, Post Hazeltine Associates. And Joe Androlitis, the architect, was going to give a very brief, pointing out some changes he made to address some concerns of the urban historian.
As a result of going back and forth with the report, we did make a change to the lights in the doors. So Nicole had made a comment that the existing drawings showed less lights, basically just horizontal buttons on the doors. And so just wanted to point that out. That's the only revision relating to this report that we made to the project.
Gotcha. And we'll see drawings of this?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. But they're not in the report, because the report is one generation old drawings. Is that correct? Or are they in the report?
I believe the drawings in the report are the most current set.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
Mr. Androlitis can confirm that.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So why don't you give us, we've seen this before, but why don't you give us a brief overview and walk us through the areas and what your kind of analysis were?
Okay.
Because there's a lot of different pieces and parts.
There are. And is there a set of plans that could be put out here just so it would be
Yeah,
helpful
that would be good.
to point out?
Thank you.
And would help me too to make sure I don't miss anything. Do you have a pointer or?
Yeah.
Pointers.
Pointer?
And not a German short hair.
One of these days, well, it's April 1st, we might end.
Yeah.
So, can I blind somebody with this? Probably.
I have safety glasses on.
Okay, so we want to go to site plan?
Got the site plan, and just quickly, I'll just point out where the changes are. Here's the Santa Clara building right here. This is the building that was deemed historic in the report, and the historical original parts of under the structure of merit designation.
What page is that?
I'm sorry.
A100.
A100. And just below that on A100 is the proposed site plan. And here you can see where most of the changes are taking place are right here, where they're reopening the original entrance. This arcade was added fairly recently, last few decades of the 20th century, and is not historic. So the proposal is to reopen this so you can see the original entrance. Other alterations are primarily confined to the area of the porte cochere, which is right here. So this is the porte cochere, and this is the area pointing or facing towards the beach. So the alterations around the porte cochere aren't the physical structure, but adding landscaping. And then the proposed changes are here, where there would be a pergola would be built, and the existing non-historic fenestration would be replaced with something that would allow more access from the lobby area onto this new landscaped area. And this whole wing right here is not historic. This is all an addition here. This is back here. That's hard. This line here is really the original rear or side elevation, west elevation of the hotel was right here.
Right.
And as Joe had mentioned, the new fenestration, and there's also some alterations here to open up the first floor along this non-historic elements here. It would be opened up to create a couple of recessed porches. The proposed fenestration type is one that Nicole recommended, which is based on the original divided light patterns of the windows as documented in our report. If I can remember the right page number. There are some historic images of that, which I should remember, but don't. Let's see, it's on page 38 of the report on figure 19. And it's a little hard to see, but you can see the pattern of divided lights. We had to blow that up. Not the other, yeah, on the,
On this side?
no, on the other side. So it's a little hard to see, but you can see the pattern of divided lights in the windows here, the original first floor fenestration. And so Joe is going to emulate those patterns in the new fenestration. And all the material that's being removed here or altered on this elevation are post-historic alterations and additions. So historic fabric will not be lost.
Okay. Great.
Go into any more notes if you need to look at this. Here. Over one more, I think. This is the proposed changes to the lobby area. So here's the existing lobby,
So A401.
and here's the doors into the lobby that exist now off the parking area. So the proposal is to convert, there's some meeting rooms here, which you can see on figure 2 here, that'll be converted into an extension of the lobby that will have folding divided light doors that will then open onto this new pergola, which will be set in a landscaped area instead of parking. And here you can see this is sheet 402. Down here is where on the lower drawing, you can see where the proposed conversion of some of this area here into porches and what that would entail, and the removal of some of these non-historic walls. Joe, correct me if I get off.
Doing a great presentation of your.
Okay, so here's the elevations that are proposed for alteration: south elevation of the Santa Clara building, south elevation of the non-historic lobby wing. This is what it would look like here. And I'm sorry, this is the pool terrace. I forgot to mention that. Off of the side of the pool terrace, there is a post-historic addition, and the proposal is to revamp that to make it, to have it recall more of the original architectural elements of the building, such as some polychromatic tile parapet and window types that are just more in keeping with the historic building. And so here this is where the original entrance would be exposed, and it would also feature a wrought iron and canvas canopy that would go out to the property line. And as documented in our report, the Phase 1 report, there was a canopied structure there.
Page 25.
Thank you.
Page 25.
So that would bring back into view this historic feature that has been covered up now for some 30-plus years. So you can see it right.
There's the canopy there.
Now, just so you know, the canopy here is not, it's not going to be this long, and it's not going to go into the public park area. But that's the style that's being proposed.
Okay.
And this is a detail here of the canopy structure for the pool terrace, which would be a little more referential to the original Juliet-style balconies that were on the hotel, which are shown on page 25. And you can see them right here. Fortunately, those were taken off, but this will be a way of kind of recalling those elements. And I think that's about most of what's being proposed with our construction. And then there's a whole, CJMLA has proposed this new landscaping. And the real intent of this, from a historic standpoint, what we see as beneficial is all this area that was converted to parking. And historically, there was a garden here. It was very informal, but it did fill most of this area in the 30s and 40s. And by recapitulating more landscaping here and here in the pool area, we feel it is more in keeping with the Mediterranean style and the way that these oceanfront resorts were landscaped in the 1920s and 30s. So we see the landscape plan as beneficial. It's not trying to recreate something that's no longer there, but it's trying to make the landscaping more compatible with the history and architecture of the building.
Okay.
So I think that's it.
All right. Great. Okay, so do we have, should we go to public comment now and then back to the board for
Mr. Chair, I would
questions?
suggest opening public comment specific to the report.
Yep. Okay, so this time we'll open public comment just on the report itself, not on the project. Anyone wishing to speak on the report can come forward? No? Okay, in that case, we'll close public comment and back to the board for questions.
Mr. Chair.
Questions about the report? Yes, Commissioner House.
Well, my question has to do with, on page 25, figure 6, on the tower, there appears to be something affixed to the side of the tower away from the ocean. And I noticed that in one of the photos in Nicole's presentation from the opposite direction, from the east, I guess. So I'm wondering if you are aware of, that was a sign facing
That was
the
a
way.
sort of like a blade sign facing towards to the public, the Coast Highway or the 101. Something I presume the sign committee would not be in favor of today.
Before we had a sign
I figured
committee.
it was that, yeah.
Quite a, pretty good size.
Yeah, looks like it, yeah.
I don't see it on.
Right.
That thing right there.
What was it?
See the
Sorry.
straps.
Attached
tied
to the side of the tower.
And actually, if you
Neon, huh?
Billboard,
if you look at the image below, which is
Historic.
slightly later, we're not sorry to interrupt, but you notice that the sign is no longer there. So I have
Well,
a
that's
feeling
interesting because Nicole's picture was with the second floor addition, which was
that. Oh, I'm sorry.
55 or something.
I'm sorry, I mixed that up. You're right.
That's
You're right.
earlier.
That's earlier.
wasn't
I'm
it?
sorry. I was thinking of the sign on the other side of the building that was removed.
Well, but it's interesting, though. I mean, if we see it in the 1935 and 1950 something, the 1944 should have it, but
It's
curious.
not there, no.
Yeah.
Maybe so.
Okay.
Photo tampering.
All right. So, questions from the board? Additional questions?
No questions.
Questions about the report? Let's just flip through real fast. I think I might. I had a question about the, and it's in your report, so we don't need to flip it through on the sheets, but so about the precast plaster columns here, and then there was the inspiration photo here, and I'm just curious as to where it's going. I don't know about the base of the columns, and obviously these are round and these ones are going to be square. Is that right?
35.
So, but in terms of the capitals, where I mean, this is the inspiration of it, but I'm trying to see how that kind of put together with the precast plaster columns that you have are shown in elevation, and if that's just going to be worked out later down the road with once things actually get developed, with this being your inspiration, you're going to kind of look at those, or
Yeah, the intent is to have those columns have some of the proportions and the overall feel of that, even though they'll be different.
yeah.
It's one of the few areas on the original building that actually had some more elaborate architectural features outside of the entrance. And the porch originally in that photo when that was original, the columns were the same color as the balustrade element, so the whole porch
Interesting.
it visually projected a little more because it was a different color.
Gotcha. Okay. And then that wrought iron was after as well, right? That's a safety.
I think that's a safety addition.
Back in the good old days of 2-foot railings.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that might have been my only question. She answered everything else. Any other questions? Okay. All right. So in that case, let's table the report and let's go to part B, the project. And let's, why don't you kind of run through it as if it really hadn't been run through already, but with hitting on points, because I'm sure there's lots of pieces that have developed and changed or anything.
No, I mean, not much has changed since our last meeting. I wanted to comment on the comments you made at our last meeting, and then go from there.
Okay, yeah. So let's
but
pull that up.
The design is pretty much what you what Tim had presented is accurate as to the current scope. So as I recall from our last meeting, I don't have the minutes in front of me,
I've
but
got them here. Why don't I
there's-
pull them up and
Okay.
I'll run through our motion so that we can go through them from there. Okay, so we had a 2-week continuance with the comments. The commission, number 1, the commission appreciates the improvements to the south elevation. Number 2, the M monogram is a successful solution above the second floor proposed doors. Number 3, the commission suggests studying an opportunity to include color on the south elevation by way of a projection or an awning. Number 4, the commission appreciates the stone will be revealed with the elimination of the ivy. And that was in this area. And then 5, study introducing an engaged column or pilaster. And that was in reference to here, I believe. And then consider beveling or adding some details to the recessed door to eliminate harshness, and that was there. And the action was 8-0-0. Uli was absent. Motion carried. All right.
Okay, so I'll walk through those comments. I did look at an awning element here. The canvas awning really doesn't work there given the amount of window space we have there. And then I did look at the detail at the courthouse. It's a nice detail, but it'd be an expensive detail for what we're proposing here as our budget. That's still on the table at some point as we further develop the details. If our budget numbers come in below our expectations, it would be considered down the road for some kind of awning element above these windows. As far as this opening here, I did chamfer the jambs and the head condition here to kind of soften that. So that's how we address that. I did study engaging a column here. I really didn't like how it really constrains this side of the elevation. So I wasn't even willing to offer an example of that, but I am willing to offer an example of, Ed made a comment about adding some wood corbels underneath the beam. And I can go either way on this, but I just thought I'd show it as an example to be considered in the board's input on which one you would prefer as far as that's concerned. And I think that addresses the elements unless I missed something, so let me know.
I think that's it from our list. Okay.
I would be
And then-
exposed wood. I mean, just no paint, no nothing, just.
Here?
Yes,
This would be painted,
yes, but I mean,
but yeah.
intense, I mean, brown color, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I believe landscape has some follow-up as to some of the columns that were proposed along that walkway.
Yep.
So I'll just
Those piers, yeah.
let her.
Okay, sounds good. Why don't we
Explain the
roll
reason
into the
why.
landscape?
Yeah.
I forgot to ask you for your names for the record. I know that you were already introduced with the historian, so.
Courtney Miller with CJMLA Landscape Architects.
Thank you.
So I was not at the last meeting, and I just wanted to share with you, we've done a little bit more work to identify our existing trees to remain and be removed. So there are 89 existing trees on this property, and
Page.
we're on page L 1.1. And of those, we'd like to propose 9 removals. Most of them are pretty insignificant and
What
not
varieties
doing
are
very
they?
well. So I'm going to walk you through that.
Oh, okay.
So here we are in the corner of, this is Corona Del Mar Drive, Aria Del Mar. So this is kind of the northwest corner of the site. 2 existing Bauhinia, which are looking pretty dismal. They've been pruned kind of funny, and I just don't think that they're thriving there. So planning to remove those. They're quite small also. And then moving on through, there's a number of existing shamrops and other miscellaneous palms that kind of line the frontage. We're keeping all of those. As we get into our lobby expansion area, there are 4 king palms that we're proposing for removal so that we can have that patio expansion. We are protecting the very large Norfolk Island pine here, and so we're planning on implementing kind of a nicely layered palette of palms and understory plantings around that. And then at the entry where Joe had pointed out the awning earlier, we're planning on removing 1 Chamaerops there. There's 2 that sort of flank that entry, and this is the one that unfortunately I think will need to come out because what's happening there is the building is being kind of pulled back, right? And the door opening is much wider than what this existing walkway represents. So we're having to widen the sidewalk. On this side, less of a problem, but on this side, it gets really close to that palm. And with the addition of the awning too, I think it's just going to be packed in too tight. And they're not quite symmetrical either, which could be okay, but I think ideally we'd like to keep it, but for now we're proposing it as a removal, just to be safe. And then also, thanks, Steve, within the pool deck area, there are 2 existing king palms, which are pretty short, and basically we'd like to do something that's a little bit more sizable in that corner to address some more shading and
Such as?
and I'll show you on the landscape plan, just to introduce some more foliage in that corner. And as you know, we're kind of proposing new planters around the whole perimeter of that area. So again, just it's a species that doesn't do very well on the waterfront either, so we figure it's okay. And then everything else is remaining in place. We're still planning on keeping that large, beautiful multi-Senegal date palm on the corner. And in terms of the landscape plans, nothing else has really been changed. So this is the area where those 2 Bauhinia are coming out. Right now we've proposed potentially some multi-Chamaerops in that area, and that's a species that we're using a lot of around the site, just to tie in with what's there. And then in the lobby extension area, so previously we had those 4 king palms here in front of the building. Right now we've got Trachycarpus here and here. This one we were hoping to do a large multi Phoenix reclinata. They're medium water use, so we're exploring other options for that right now. Might be a nice big multi-Chamaerops, but I like the idea of a multi-trunk in that corner to kind of play well with this large existing Norfolk Island pine. And then at the pool deck, just tying everything back in. So this is the corner where those 2 existing king palms are. Same idea here. I wanted to get a big multi, so it might be a Chamaerops. I don't think that we'll be able to do the Senegal date palm, so we're looking at other options for that too. And this is the area where we've got 1 existing single trunk Chamaerops here. The other existing tree is right about here. So that, I think, comprises the changes that were made. It's pretty minor since the last time we were here. Otherwise, everything is as you saw the last time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so that concludes your whole presentation.
Yes.
Okay, so now I'll open it to the public. Any member from the public wishing to comment on this, on the project itself, can come, please hand in a speakership or come forward. Nope. All right, so seeing none, I'll close public comment and back to the commission for questions. So, Commissioner Uli.
I have no questions.
Questions, Commissioner Lemick? Commissioner Lenvik?
No question.
No question.
Commissioner Vena?
No question.
Well, come on, this is too easy.
I have a question.
All right, there we go. Commissioner House.
What is your preference in regards to the, whatever those are called, zapatos or something?
I like it without the corbels.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
No questions.
All right, Commissioner Mann. Commissioner Edmonds?
No question.
All right, I have one question. It was, so it was actually regarding this detail. So it says new plaster scroll full depth to back wall. Does this mean that you have the full depth of a wall, or does that mean you're going
No,
all the way back to there?
What I was trying to convey is there's a little bump out right there. And so instead of a scroll just being 12 inches, I thought, that bump out's about 2 feet. I'm just going to take that all the way back to the back wall.
Okay, but
so
it's
the
not.
roof would collide into the scroll.
Okay, so from this point, are you saying this goes all the way back to this wall?
Yeah.
Okay.
It
But that's like.
extrudes all the way back.
Extrudes all the way back.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you handle the waterproofing of the intersection of roof tiles in a complex shape like that without it looking funny?
Well, I don't know yet. We'll figure that out.
It might end up just being 12 inches.
I may raise it a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's sloping, so yeah, it's going to be a tricky detail.
Okay, that was my only question. All right, so to comments, Commissioner Edmonds, do you want comments? Commissioner Mahan?
If we remove the corbels on these columns here, looking at the south elevation, does the beam then just sit on top of that capital?
Yeah, like the illustration in that plan.
Yeah, he just per the, we'd have like a scarf joint
404.
at the top.
What is it?
404.
404. Okay.
And that's similar to the condition in the upper area.
We're going to
and-
study that. That column's kind of a little odd. It's a squatty column, and I don't know if
It also
the
only
round-
has a rounded.
If you take
one.
the corbel out, the column will be longer.
It'll be
taller.
about 7
7
and a
inches,
half
yeah.
inches taller.
I think in the pergola that comes off of the Libero Theater, which is wood, but it sits on stucco columns, and I don't believe there's corbels on that.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think I would go along with the architect's recommendation to not have the corbels. Other than that, I think it's okay.
I would agree with that comment. I think they're kind of superfluous.
Okay, any other?
I agree.
Sorry, in terms of going in order, any other comments aside from these?
Well, I still believe that some kind of a molding above this string of windows, or a molding below, a sill molding, it wouldn't have to be too big, about like that. I want to keep that on the table. I understand you have budget restraints, but let's keep that as a detail that can be studied.
Yeah, I think a molding would be easier to do.
Yeah, a molding.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all.
Nothing additional.
All right, Commissioner. Commissioner Lenvik?
Yes, thank you. This is on the agenda today for project design approval.
Yep, that's what's being requested.
And I don't know that the drawings are far enough along to grant project design approval. Once you grant project design approval, as we've all learned, then there's no going back. And I don't know that I see that the design has focused in on a lot of areas yet. I mean, if we look at the bar here, how is that put together? What it's going to look like? The capital on the columns. What is that configuration going to be? They reference existing columns that they're using as a template or a guide in the historic study report, those columns have a different proportion than the ones we see proposed on the drawings right now. They're chunkier and maybe actually look a little better. We don't see any colors. We see new aluminum-clad windows and doors. We don't know what those colors are yet. We see tile. We don't know what the tile pattern, color, and such is.
Mr. Chair, thank you for your comments, Commissioner Lemick. I just wanted to remind the board the difference between project design approval and final approval. And project design approval correctly is the site orientation. It is the formal layout of the project, and it's the approval that's followed with working drawings at final approval. And at final approval, that's where you go into tile color, awning color. A lot of the details are further analyzed for the landscape palette, all of that, and that is appropriate at final approval.
I don't agree.
So that's what our guidelines state.
Yeah,
So.
I don't agree. If we're expecting to see wrought iron handrails, I assume that we're expecting to see some semblance of a detail in those handrails at this time, as opposed to the applicant coming back later and saying, my details are simple. They don't have a lamb's tongue at the end. They don't have things that we would expect in this character of architecture. And I just think we are in the future going to be looking at problems when we give preliminary design approval to projects that have not shown us all of the design work. And I would be very reluctant, as my vote, to vote on something that is, that I can't see what's going on.
So,
I mean, it's...
Yeah, so up until last week, I would disagree with you.
Okay.
But having seen how things are unfortunately have been playing out, where whatever now is being locked in at this level completely, and to the point where I wouldn't agree with you unnecessarily on terms of colors and the materiality and choosing that, because that isn't and can't be shown here at this level. That's very easily done just in terms of materiality. But a lot of your other points, the wrought iron, even the detailing of the column and things like that, what is happening now is that we are being locked into whatever we give design approval on. Hold on. And so unfortunately, I think up until now, I would have said, no, we can give approval at this level and then be fine, and we can finesse things, and that column can finesse, and these pieces can finesse, and maybe there's brackets that come in or not. But I think that we are starting to get forced into design approval being a much heavier, locked-in design. And so to be able to judge that, I hear your concern, Mr. Lenvik, that we actually need to see a lot of these things detailed out, at least in terms of how that overall design comes up at half inch or whatever. I don't think it's right, but I think that that's what's being forced because of how things have been playing out lately. So
Commissioner Grumbine.
Yeah. Let me address it.
Yeah.
Let me address this issue first. In terms of looking what's playing out there, what's being forced is not what the commission should look at. We have guidelines. The guidelines not only are there to guide the commission when they have a hearing, but it's also to guide the applicants. It's something that's published online that the applicants are able to look at and understand the steps and process and understand during project design approval what is to occur versus final approval. And that is what the issue here is in terms of that this isn't the stage for that. And it's the fairness for the public, it's fairness for the applicants, it's fairness for the commission in terms of what are the ground rules in terms of looking at the colors and all that. And it's specifically stated in the guidelines, and I could read them, to the commission at this point. But
read them to us. Sure.
So for project design approval, which is what this item is here, project design approval occurs prior to the preparation of working construction drawings. The plan should reflect all applicable plan commission conditions and city departmental conditions of approval. That's one. Number two, project design approval is the most important. Approval of plans and determines the site plan configuration and design that must be followed in the working drawings. Any substantial design project changes after the project design approval will require a new project design approval. Number three, all significant elements of the architectural appearance, landscaping, and site building orientation must be found consistent with the applicable guidelines in order to receive the approval at this level of review. Number four, environmental review, planning commission approvals, and other discretionary review, if required, must be completed prior to the project design approval. And it goes on where final approval is completed working construction drawings occurs prior to the submittal for a building permit. Final plans will be approved if they are substantial conformance with the plans given the project design approval. If the applicant proposes substantial changes to the plans after project design approval, a new project design approval will be required. All planning commission conditions of approval shall be included on the plans. And here's the most important part. Number two, all details, color samples, door hardware, and exterior lighting fixtures shall be included for review. The design review after final approval submittal and checklist indicating sheet numbers where plan details are located within the plan sets must be submitted with the final proposed details. And number three, a final approval may be obtained subject to conditions that allow minor details to return on the consent calendar. So there is where it outlines in terms of where we're looking at.
I don't disagree with those words. What I'm saying is, right now, I don't know what the handrails look like. Right now, I don't know, is the tile 8-inch square tile or 4-inch square tile? Is it solid color or does it have a pattern? I don't know right now. I don't know if there's a detail on the end of the trellis beams or if it's just a square cutoff. I don't know those things. And if I approve this, then the applicant has every right to come back and say, well,
Mr. Chair.
my mind was that I had square cutoffs on those, but they may not be appropriate to this building.
So, Mr. Chair, just as a suggestion, you can list out all of those in your final motion today if you decided to grant project design approval, that the applicant is to return with the details showing those elements, and that can be a condition.
On 711 North Milpa Street, those kind of
Mr.
conditions,
Chair,
those kind
that
of conditions
project
were
is
addressed
not what's on the
repeatedly,
table.
and the applicant never performed them.
That's highly inappropriate to interject another hearing, another
Yeah.
project that's not even
can't
the
go
basis
there.
for that. That's highly inappropriate.
Okay. So here's what where I want to go with this. I think that per what was just read, the details, as in the handrail detail, this is how I'm gonna read it and understand it for now. But the details regarding the handrail details and things like that, I think we can say that qualifies in the details section, the materials section, which we specify out. There are a few pieces still in my mind that which were brought up as, for example, this being what the design is. I think understanding that piece more is important, and understanding this piece more is important, even at a larger level than just details. It's a detail to this project, but it's a large constructed column, and this is a large constructed canopy. So in terms of just as a review, I know things in the past have been much more flexible in terms of seeing big pieces get worked out and fleshed out well for final. But those pieces at least wouldn't qualify I would say at least in terms of details. Those are larger design elements that would need a little more that still seem to need a little more fleshing out before what is being locked in is locked in. That's in my view, but in terms of and I know this is I want to try to be as absolutely fair to everyone as possible, because we're trying to operate by regular rules and try to define them and kind of work within them. So, but as Commissioner Lenvick's bringing up a point which has been being brought up over the last year especially, and it is an issue in terms of trying to find what gets locked into design approval. And even though this is out of sequence, I'll let you speak as well, because I understand the frustration.
I've been doing this for a long time, and all of those things, I don't show details because I want to present them to you so you can approve them. And that's what happens at final. It's always what's happened at final. I'm really concerned this is a sea change that's going to be detrimental to all applicants coming to you, that will further delay the process that we're trying to improve. Now, when we look at something like this, if I was on the commission, I would say, is this proportionally right? Is the height of that, is the thickness of that column look presentable? Yes. I can come, and then I will come back with the details of all the extra stuff. But when you're looking at from a project design standpoint, you're looking at that proportion. You're not looking at what that finial design is right now, because that's going to come back as a detail. Is the arrangement of these columns acceptable? What that actual column is, I will come back with the detail. That's been the traditional way that this has always been done. From a project design point, those are the elements you're looking at. And so I just want to reiterate that, because if we're going down that road, it's going in reverse of what we're trying to do with project design approval.
Mr. Chair, that is exactly what's happening.
Yeah,
We're being forced to review projects that are more complete, much more complete. And the good old fellowship we had before about expecting the architect's going to come through for us, it has been taken away from us.
Well,
and it's really unfortunate.
I think you have that in final, though, still.
We don't. We don't.
Okay.
We had a project on Anacapa Street, the building at the corner of Anacapa and Coder or whatever it was. It was that old building, and they're going to come in and they're going to put a new outside bar on it, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. We went through every detail of that bar, the tile, the way the windows worked, everything before we gave them preliminary approval. Why would we treat this project differently when we have seen no detail on the outside bar at the pool? I mean, to me, we've got to be equitably fair, and we can't place ourselves in a position where we are going to be taking advantage. I won't say taking advantage, but where we're going to have a problem down the road where the applicant says, "You don't see any lamb's tongues on the end of my handrails here. What do you mean asking for those things? Those cost another $500."
Okay.
So,
I have a question.
Yeah.
So as a new commissioner, not having the past history, when you talk, Commissioner Lundvik, about this other project, were the rules different at that point in time?
No, they weren't.
So why did you all follow one set of rules for that when the rules are stated differently? So some clarification would help.
Commissioner, first I caution on the discussion, right? We're interjecting. This wouldn't be allowed in a court of law. You're an administrative body acting in terms of a hearing procedure. You're interjecting some other project not identified with no record before you and comparing it to the process of how you would proceed on this. The rules are there in terms of project design approval. That has to be followed. And what was required under final review should be required under final review. Interjecting or talking about other projects, other properties, what happened is not proper. It's not part of the procedure here. It's not fair to the applicant. It causes confusion. We're talking about a record. Imagine a record of people looking at this, a council or anyone else in terms of a written mandate, and someone reading going, what project are they referring to? What basis does it have it to be even interjected in this conversation?
Okay, so
that's the key.
Yeah.
And
hold on.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to follow up with one additional comment. You brought up the project compatibility criteria earlier, which is done at project design approval. And if you look through all 6 of those, what they're talking about is generally compliant, compatibility with architectural, city, and neighborhood, appropriate size, bulk, and scale, sensitive to adjacent landmarks and historic resources, public views. They're a lot broader comments related to the project, and they do not focus on the details, which are done at the final approval stage.
Okay.
So it's whether or not, at your estimation, it's discretionary review, do you think the project is eligible for project design approval based on the project compatibility criteria that you'll go through and whether or not you can make the appropriate historic findings?
Okay. So this is what
I just want to remind you also have to make the structure and merit findings too. So to
be able to give this design approval, we have to first make structure of merit findings and accept the report.
You have a lot of.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, so hold on a second. This is, yeah, so here's what I think we should do. Part of it is going to be what we decide in terms of the motion. So those who are not comfortable giving it design approval and that cannot make that analysis, they don't have to make that analysis and you can vote against it. Those of you who are for it and think that these drawings, this design you are able to make that analysis, can vote for it. And we're going to just have to do it that way. I think this is going to be part of our further learning that we're going to be getting from staff coming down the road and how these all play out. But for now, I think that's the way we're going to go with it. As well, if you want to give this design approval, we also have to first approve and make the findings for the structure of merit. So I want to finish off with the comments about the design, and then we're going to need to go into what motion after that. So.
And then, Mr. Chair, just as a reminder, we haven't closed item A, which is the Phase 2 report. So before you can take a motion to...
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we'll make sure to go back to the A
you
first.
need to go to A.
Okay, so we'll get the comments on the project. We'll go back to A, decide on that, and then we'll go to B. All right, so Commissioner Lenvik, do you have any other comments on the design itself?
Well, I think there are details that need to be addressed in the design.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Nemec? No? Okay, Commissioner Uli?
With respect to the south elevation, I would agree with Commissioner Meehan about the column cap and corbels. And otherwise, I think you're going in a good direction. I like it.
All right.
Mr. Chair.
I have a question.
Commissioner Meehan, question?
Yeah, on L 1.5, where I think you're showing a picture of the tree,
1.5?
the Mediterranean fan palm that's going to be removed. That one right there. Are you going to replant that someplace else, or are you going to chop it up, or what are you going to do with it?
Mulch it?
Right now, we don't have plans to reuse it, but we have a lot of those new, same species, single trunk in the palette. So we
It
could
seems like
look
an
at.
attractive tree. It should be saved and relocated.
We could look at relocating it. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Commissioner House?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to observe that the description of the project design approval, I think the language was significant design elements. So I guess that's kind of ambiguous and open to interpretation as a lamb's tongue on the end of a rail, a significant design element. But I think as long as we are very specific in our motion as to which elements are not there yet and need to return in progress, we kind of keep that held open for further work on those specific elements.
Okay. Thank you
Mr.
for your
Chair,
comments. Commissioner Meehan?
To add on to that, I believe when we make our motion for design approval, we should hang our hat on our guidelines, which are very, very good guidelines. The ironwork shown in those guidelines, something that we all be proud of, and et cetera, all of those guidelines. And if we put that in our motion, details that are not shown will be compatible with our guidelines that will secure us from things
thank you.
that we wouldn't like.
Okay, so thank you, Commissioner Meehan. So now, unless there's any other big comments, I want to table this and go back to item 3A. Any other okay, on this? All right, so let's go to the historic structures report. So I would be looking for a motion to accept the historic structures report.
Mr. Chair, I just have one general comment.
Yes.
Thank God that there are drawings in here because we don't get any drawings. And at least I could understand the context of the report by seeing the drawings in the report. So that's my only comment about it.
Thank you. I would add to that it was thank you for the great report again.
Yes, very excellent.
Did a great job of explaining a very complex, lots of pieces, and weighing in on all those. So, any other comments in the report, and then a motion?
I will make a motion for acceptance of the Phase 2 Historic Structures and Sites report.
And then, all right, and then. Oh, sorry. The second was Uli. And then do we need, as part of it, any language?
Doesn't look like.
Sorry, what was that? No language needed.
No, Mr. Chair, that's just acceptance of the report.
Okay.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right. Motion carries unanimously. Now let's go back to 3B. Okay. So does someone want to make a motion? And
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion
all right, Commissioner Mahan.
for a project design approval that the project is compliant with the project compatibility analysis. And give me those.
So, yeah, and so, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Mahan, these are the criteria. Please say why it's meeting it. And then also, this project does require structure of merit findings. So that's in this paragraph, and it's most likely item 1 right here.
What's that white one there? So I'm going to say that my motion is that this is compliant with city charter and municipal code, generally consistent with, I'm going to say generally consistent, I'm going to say that we expect this to be consistent with our design guidelines. And it's compatible with the architectural character of the city and the neighborhood. The appropriate size, mass, bulk, height, and scale is appropriate, sensitive to adjacent landmarks and historic resources. The public view of the ocean and the mountains is not
Affected.
well. It does block them, but it's an existing building. There's nothing new. There's no new blockage. Appropriate amount of open space and landscaping. And furthermore, I'm going to add that let's see, what do we have here?
So it's under structure of merit findings, and
Alterations
it's
to the structure of merit. The exterior alterations are being made for the purpose of restoring the structure of merit. The relocation of the structure.
And then that's it.
It's
That's
not
the
going
only
to be.
one.
It's not being.
It's just
relocated.
item 1.
And
Thank you.
And furthermore, that we expect the applicant to return with specific details that are not presently shown to us on these drawings for railings.
Why don't we go through them here?
Okay.
So okay, go for it. And I have a little list here. I'll just tack on whatever I don't hear you say.
Go ahead. Give me the.
Okay, so molding above or below the windows here.
Yes.
The bank of windows on the second floor.
Yeah.
On the
The
south
south
elevation.
Yeah, identify the elevation.
Yeah.
South elevation.
The
Second floor.
development and study of the bar area trellis.
Yes.
Steel trellis.
Yes, and I think to be more compatible with our guidelines.
Yeah. Can you add in and/or the historic details of the building itself? In case
Historic buildings, the historic details of the building.
Okay.
And the ironwork, the tile, colors,
and materials.
Any other.
Fabric samples.
Pardon me?
Awning samples.
Awning samples I'd like to see a better detail of these columns and the capitals.
How about the plaster scroll?
Plaster scroll should be detailed to us, and doors and windows that are new. All of the details. All of the details of the building need to be presented, drawn, and be compatible with our guidelines.
Okay.
That's my motion.
All right. Second
Well
dynamic. Okay, under discussion.
Do we have specifically to return in progress on those details?
Make a suggestion on that.
Well, only because the unusual case. Well, no, we'll humor you with it.
I would like to continue every 2 weeks to show you progress of our details. I'm not going to have them all done.
Yeah.
What I would like to do is focus on the trellises at our next meeting,
Okay.
both the wood and the steel trellis, and just go from there.
Okay.
That's
So
a good plan. So we take
continued.
bite-sized
Yeah.
chunks.
Another question of
So don't bite it all
the
together.
applicant. Are you putting any new mechanical equipment on the roof?
Or new mechanical equipment. Period.
I don't.
If
There may be a possibility.
we want
Has
to
been
see details of the screening of that, and to make sure that it's screened.
part of a different permit, so if it is proposed, it will be presented separately.
Okay. And any penetrations through, new penetrations through the walls for vents, et cetera, we want to see those detailed too.
So, Mr. Chair, I just want to clarify the start of the motion. So it would be motion for project design approval and continue to the full commission 2 weeks for in-progress review on the
Sounds good.
details as listed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain? We got unanimous.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right.
You did it.
Mr. Chair, can you
All
ask
right,
the appeal
this can
period?
be appealed.
10 days.
10 days.
Can we take a 5-minute break?
Yes, 5-minute break.
The sun should desert the day, what would life be? Will I leave you never? Could the ocean leave the shore? Will I worship you forever? Isn't heaven forevermore? Do I love you? Do I? Oh, my dear, it's so easy to see. Don't you know I do? Don't I show you I do? Just as you love Will I leave you never? Could the ocean leave the shore? Will I worship you forever? Isn't heaven forevermore? Do I love you? Do I? Oh, my dear, it's so easy to see. Don't you know I do? Don't I show you I do? Just as you love
Those fingers in my hair, that sly come hither stare, that strips my conscience bare, it's witchcraft. And I've got no defense for it, the heat is too intense for it. What good would common sense for it do? 'Cause it's witchcraft, wicked witchcraft. And although I know it's strictly taboo, when you arouse the need
All right.
in me.
So, Open Historic Landmarks Commission for item number 4, new concept review for 522 State Street. Proposal for a new outdoor beer garden associated with Institution Ale located adjacent at 516 State Street. The project involves renovation of an existing 120 square foot storage structure, constructing a new 150 foot square shed, and installing new bike racks at the rear of the parcel adjacent to the city parking lot. Project includes perimeter wrought iron fencing, gates and pilasters, new string lighting hung from decorative posts, landscaping, associated outdoor furniture, and amenities including a fire pit and grass cornhole play surface. All right. Concept review. No final appealable decision will be made at this hearing. All right. Thank you. Welcome. Please state your name for the record.
Joe Androlitis with Androlitis Mixon Architects.
All right.
I'm here to present a great opportunity to improve a site that has been an eyesore for decades. So I want you to keep that in mind, what I'm proposing here. So we have a unique opportunity. We did the tenant improvement for Institution Ale at the old Pierre Lafon building, and the owners was eyeing this property and would like to do a beer garden there, which I think is a great concept for this space. And he's already paying a lease on the space. He's already investing money on the property. And so we're hoping that we can get through this process in a reasonable time manner so that we're not impacting that financial obligation and losing this opportunity. So I just want to keep that in mind for all of you because I think this is sorely needed. So as you know, this site has been run previously as a newsstand back in the 90s. The newsstand containers are still evident on the north side of the property where the India Bazaar tenant was storing his product. The existing green building was an old flower shop back when flowers were being sold on this site. And as far as I can remember, the last 10 plus years, it's been the India Bazaar where he takes the stuff out and spreads it out and sells it to tourists. You can see that the lot is littered with different kinds of paving material, different levels. The existing building is pretty rotten and dilapidated. And so we plan on improving all of that. This is the front elevation with the wood posts and existing trellis members. Most of the trellis members you see there are rotten and they're going to be replaced. There's old wood siding on the building. The building does have roof tile on the top. There's an existing opening in the front. There's also an opening in the back that's kind of like used to be a sliding door, I think. The property has a mixture of asphalt, concrete, and tile. We're going to fix all that, and then all these newsstand containers are going to be removed. So what we're proposing is to create a gathering area to have drinks, play games, spend time with family, and do some street watching, and enjoy Santa Barbara. So the perimeter of this property would be lined with a series of plaster columns that are approximately 4.5 feet tall, and between each column would be decorative wrought iron, as you can see here. And in front of all that wrought iron would be a landscape planter to kind of soften that perimeter area. We had looked at the idea of putting pots with trees kind of scattered around, but the trees never really get that big in a pot. So I convinced my client to propose a large tree central to the seating area as a nice element around all the tables. And on top of the columns, at certain locations, there'll be decorative columns used to secure the string lighting that will run from the post back to the adjacent building in this triangular pattern. The old flower shop would be...
Which is that thing?
Which is this thing, would be completely redone and covered with plaster. We would likely just patch the columns and paint them, and then add new trellis members on top. A new opening in the front with a counter, ADA counter and a regular counter. We are proposing a secure door that would go in front of that we will come back with details on. The back of the building would get a service door, which would just be a simple plank door. We have decorative wrought iron fixtures next to that door, on the side of the building, here. And then we have a little storage shed that we're proposing so that he can store the kegs and any other auxiliary equipment for the service area. That would be kind of a lean-to against the existing building that you see here. So just a simple plaster structure with a tile roof. It's just a shed roof. It has a fixture on the side, and then another plank door with two-piece clay tile. The planting would continue on the back and in front of the storage area to kind of soften that area. And in the back, we're proposing to do a bike parking area on private property, which transportation is really receptive to. The paving material here would all be colored concrete, scored, and I think it's a 4-foot on center scoring. This, we would like to just patch what's there and leave as asphalt. We have the existing paseo here with tile. Most of these tables and chairs is proposed. Put it on here. Some of the proposed products that we're suggesting. Light fixtures. So that's kind of the idea of those materials. And then we're looking at a little cornhole area for family play. He wanted to put artificial grass, but I know how HLC feels about that. So we're proposing hopefully a drought-tolerant grass that's accessible. I don't know with the landscape rules how that works in the city. I can't remember.
What kind of, what?
It'd be a drought-tolerant grass. So there's varieties that require much less water than your typical bluegrass or something like that. Along the perimeter, we're just showing for right now, just showing some blue chalk sticks with a scattering of coral aloe and some kangaroo paw. And then the tree here, I was thinking of a Desert Museum Palo Verde tree, but I'm open to suggestions on that. These are just standing tables, and then these would just be kind of like bench seating along the perimeter, or bar seating along the perimeter and against this building. I don't show a cut sheet of that, but this would be, I can't remember if that's tile already. There's no tile there, so there would be new kind of terracotta tile there, clay tile. And then this is a low fire pit with plaster walls and a terracotta tile cap. That would be a low sitting area in front of the beer serving shed. Then wrought iron gates at each of these main entries. And I think that covers my presentation. Colors here.
Can you talk about those light fixtures?
These light fixtures?
Mm-hmm. You've got two different kinds.
So I have two different fixtures. So I was thinking the bigger fixture would be located. Where did I have that? On the side here.
Is that the Handelman or
That's
the other one?
Handelman, and then I'd have this smaller one because it's low and it can only project 4 inches. So I have that here, here, and here.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. Okay, so is that...
That concludes my
concludes your
presentation.
Presentation, okay. All right, so at this time, we'll open public comment. Any member from the public wishing to comment on this project? All right, come forward. And if you'll just fill out a speaker slip afterwards with your name.
Looks like she might have one with her.
Oh, you can give it to Great. Thank you, if you wouldn't mind. Oh, thank you. All right. Welcome.
My name is Susie Thompson.
Okay.
And my family has owned property on Fig Avenue since 1920s. So we've been there for a long time, and we've felt the residents there, tenants and myself, have felt outdoor patios noise. And there doesn't seem to be anything in this to help reduce noise. And it looks like it has quite a high occupancy load, and what in the design is going to help reduce noise for residents? Because when you don't get sleep, it reduces the quality of your life. So I was wanting to know what in here reduces noise for residents. And, you know, they're going to be outdoor speakers, entertainment, you know, allowed. It's, you know, we keep getting these things pushed on us down there. So hopefully in the design, you guys will consider the residents. And I don't know what can be done on this to reduce noise, what you guys will require, or if you're going to require anything. That's all I have to say, I guess.
Okay.
Is there,
Mr. Chair, question?
Yes, Commissioner.
Where are the residences you're talking about?
we're on Fig Avenue. We're a half a block away.
On what avenue?
Fig Avenue.
Fig Avenue is
Fig.
a little alley.
Fig, oh yeah, I know where Fig is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we do hear noise from Calypso, because they have that outdoor space, so it doesn't stay contained.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Okay, in that case, I'll close public comment and back to the board for questions. Commissioner Edmonds.
Public restrooms. You haven't mentioned restrooms, so I assume that there must be use of public restrooms. How close are they?
They're going to be in conjunction with the Institution Ale. Those restrooms were sized for future capacity for this beer garden.
Okay.
Say it again, what building?
The adjacent building, Institution Ale.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Mayhew.
In the children's area, there are these little rectangles with a circle. What are those?
Those are the cornhole boards. So you throw little bean bags, and then they try to land them in the hole.
Right.
I thought you were on the tournament, Bill.
The
Shuffleboard.
So the beer is going to be served out of, and other drinks, are going to be served out of the little O2 building, right, in the middle there?
Correct, the existing building.
Mm-hmm. Will there be, do you anticipate that you will have people, waiters and waitresses out serving the tables, or will everybody have to come up to that bar?
Everyone will have to come up to the bar.
I see. Mm-hmm. Do you anticipate music and things like that?
We don't have any proposed amplified
So,
sense.
Mr.
question
Chair,
for
to give
staff.
some clarification, this site, is going to be looked at by ABC for the liquor license, and I'm not sure what kind of restrictions will be put on this site quite yet. It's still developing. A police department might have some special restrictions as well. Just a reminder of the purview of the board. You're looking at the aesthetics being proposed, not necessarily, how the waitresses and waiters are going to be organized. Music, anything of that nature. That's not a design component.
Depends on what the band's wearing. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Mahan?
I'm through, thank you.
Commissioner House?
Commissioner Edmonds, did you have any comments?
I already, comments. I thought
Oh,
we
no,
were-
we're
questions.
questions.
Sorry.
I
Okay.
already did.
One question would be, do you have an arrangement with the owner of the adjacent building for attachment of the light strings?
No, but we will make that arrangement.
You hope. At tables and chairs, do they come in at night or they remain out there?
Majority of these large tables are anchored to the ground,
Okay.
and they're benches. Most of the high tops will be anchored to the ground. The chairs will be stacked and stored in the storage room, or maybe chained together at night so they don't go anywhere.
I think that's the only question I have at the moment.
Okay. Commissioner Vena?
Your drainage is basically wherever it falls.
Drainage is not quite figured out, but I'm hoping the perimeter landscape planners will help with the drainage. So it's going to be a little tricky.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking the same thing, but I'm concerned about the visualness from the rear as far as the bicycle rack is concerned and so on. Or is that a question, or?
That's a question. Well, the question is what does it look like from here?
Yeah.
And so this elevation is here. But you're not showing the bikes in elevation, right?
I have not, but I can do that.
Okay. That's all I have right now.
All right. Commissioner Lendick?
Thank you. So this will only be open when the adjoining building is open.
Correct.
I find it a mystery to be able to have this kind of an operation without restrooms.
There's a slight.
You're going to have
If it's only serving beer, there's a allowance for that.
you're going to have a traffic.
Believe it or not.
There is an allowance.
Yep.
In the building code.
Okay. Again.
And Commissioner, a reminder, in terms of either there are nuisance issues or traffic issues in terms of where the patrons are, that's not the purview of this board. It's strictly the aesthetic guidelines.
Mr. Attorney? We have to make project compatibility findings for this?
So, Mr. Chair,
Yeah, hold on.
Commissioner Lenvick, it's not done at this point in time. Ultimately, when you do give project design approval, you will be going through that criteria. And just because you were calling out bathrooms, that's something that is looked at in the plan check process to see how that will be facilitated.
Well, the problem I see is that the number one compatibility item up there is we find that the project complies with city charter and municipal code. That's the building code. So, are you asking us at some point in time to say this complies with the building code? And
So, Mr. Chair, when the project is scheduled for project design approval, staff will have deemed it complete. So that means we're verifying that it's complete with all zoning code, building code, all of those elements. Otherwise, it can't be scheduled for project design approval.
Any other questions,
no,
Commissioner
I have no
Nemec?
other questions.
All right, Commissioner Nemec?
What were did you say what these two circles were?
Those are like stand-up tables.
Oh, okay. Beyond that, no questions.
All right, Commissioner
I have no questions.
All right, and
Mr. Chair, I have one other question.
Commissioner Mann.
You showed heat lamps, but I don't see, where would the heat lamps be?
The heaters, the stand-up
Heaters.
They're
freestanding
just
heaters?
they're portable heaters, so they're just
Put
placed
them
as
wherever it's
needed.
cold.
They just
They'd
come
be
out when it's
stored in the
cold.
shed. They come out wherever a patron feels a need for the extra heat.
Thank
They'll
you.
probably be next to tables
Thank
and
you.
whatnot.
Yep. All right. Any other questions? I didn't have any other questions, so let's go to comments. Commissioner Edmonds.
You know, I like the idea. It's reminiscent to me a little bit of Creekside, you know, with the opportunity for families of all ages to be there, and some food courts in Portland, and yeah, I think it's very interesting.
All right, Commissioner Mahan.
I agree. I think it's a good use of the space. I recognize the public comment that there will be noise, but I think in a commercial zone, some noise has to be accepted. That's the nature of that particular zone. I think your trellis, and this is just probably a drafting error. I think it needs more overhang on the south elevation. That after it comes across that beam there, they should hang out a little further, a couple of feet at least.
This one?
But nice looking architecture. I think it fits very well.
Right, Commissioner House.
I agree. It'll be a nice project. I am a little confused about the light fixtures because you show a Handelman fixture, which is always a very attractive fixture, but the other fixture isn't represented very well, such that I can assess the aesthetics of it. And
I'll show you a picture.
And details such as how the lamp is obscured or what kind of lamp it is, you know, and et cetera, et cetera. The heaters, I would say that stainless steel heaters are not appropriate in EPV. And I know I've seen others that have Malaga green and maybe even some kind of ornamental detailing on them, something like that. My biggest concern is the string lights. Those are starting to proliferate. The ones I've seen so far have little hoods on them so that they only focus the light down. These, as shown, my numerous concerns are those lamps seem to be like 6 inches on center or even less, and that is a huge amount of light, and you know it's contributing to sky glow, so it's not a dark sky kind of installation. But furthermore, the outdoor lighting guidelines say that strings of small lights attached to buildings are not allowed except for temporary holiday installations. So, you know, the ones I've seen so far with the little hoods are usually in courtyards, and I just can't support having this as the primary light source for something that opens out onto State Street. So I don't know. I'm not sure what the other approaches would be. You probably can't do anything mounted to the adjacent building, and I don't know if your building's tall enough to do any lighting from, but I'd have a hard time supporting the string lights.
Commissioner Dana.
Well, I think it's pretty open, and I can appreciate that with the type of development that it is, but I would really like to see more trees within the general area.
Agreed.
One way or the other against the buildings or what have you, to give us some kind of canopy. It's pretty open to State Street, and I'm concerned about the light pollution. I'm concerned about several things, and mostly screening. Not that I want to block it off, but I think there can be some transparent screening in good taste, that would soften, give it a lot of softening qualities. That's all I have right now.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, Commissioner Lundvik.
No comments.
Commissioner Nemec.
I think it's a really nice outdoor space in an area that is very sad looking at the moment. I do agree that it does need more shade. It's very uncomfortable to sit out in the sun with all that hardscape and just have it all glaring at you. The Palo Verde tree, from what I've heard from people around here, I haven't planted one myself, but they don't grow well in Santa Barbara. They get
Get an awful lot of bees to them, too.
and a lot of just a mildew type problem or something like that with them. So maybe look into that or to another tree or something. But yeah.
Commissioner Uli.
I think it's a great idea. Anything that brings people together in some kind of festive manner, I think, is good for the population. But I also agree about the string lights. Now, I've got to argue, I have string lights in my backyard. They were left over a wedding we had there, and they've been there ever
What
since.
address is that?
It's not in the historic district. But anyway, I agree with the comments about the string lights. I think they produce too much light. They kind of give a carnival sense. I don't like the ones on the harbor either, strung all over the place. But otherwise, I like the idea, Joe.
Okay. And then, only other different comment I have, or additional comment I should say, is the piers here. I'll roll this into a question and then back to the comment. But I'm assuming you're making these deeper to accommodate the gates and swinging not over the sidewalk.
Correct. The gates can't swing into the public right away.
Okay, so I think I'm worried about the elevation of those when you look at them sideways and they're this sort of elongated thing with all your square piers coming. So I think that those are unresolved. However, there's ways to resolve them. But and aside from that, I'm very supportive. I had the same feeling about the lights. I don't think that there has to be a different solution. But I think all in all, it's a very supportable project. So it's very going in a great direction, and will be a huge benefit to that portion of State Street from what it is. Okay, so actually, I did have one other thing, and this is to the other fellow commissioners. The 4-foot concrete, scored concrete. Does anyone else have feelings of not niceness towards it?
I think they're 2 feet, aren't they?
I think
he said that 4.
Or 4 feet high.
No, the score lines are 4 feet squares.
Too big.
Yeah, okay, so I had this
I'd say
similar.
2 feet.
Yeah. So I'd say, that. Aside from that, okay, so I think we have, so there's no appeal decision, but we can just send it with comments.
So, and Mr. Chair, I can go through some of the comments that I heard. There's no appealable action at this hearing. It's just comments only.
Okay.
So what I have so far is.
Can we make a motion first, and then you can add in the comments?
Would you like to hear the comments I have and make a motion? Either way.
I would make a motion for what do you need, 2 weeks?
2 week continuance.
2 weeks continuance with the comments that staff is going to make.
Second.
So, Mr. Chair, the comments I have is it is a nice project and a good use of the outdoor space. The trellis needs to be studied for additional overhang. The architecture is generally acceptable. Provide clear details of the proposed light fixtures. Stainless steel lamps are not acceptable.
Heaters.
Stainless steel heaters are not acceptable. Study the string lights as they are currently not acceptable in El Palo Viejo. Additional trees are desired to provide screening and to soften the design. Study the Palo Verde tree as they do not typically do well in Santa Barbara. And the scored color concrete should be 2 feet square.
We say shade.
And shade.
Study more opportunities for shade.
And study more opportunities for shade.
Okay.
Very well done.
All right, yeah. Got all my checks. Okay, so with that, we've got a motion and a second under discussion. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? And abstain.
Mr. Chair, one other for that motion. Did you want the applicant to return with an elevation showing the bikes?
Yes, I think if we say elevation of the bikes and study of the entry piers.
Okay, thank you.
From the Paseo. Well, all of them, I guess. Yeah.
Instead of the word study, can we ask for a perspective sketch?
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Bill.
Perhaps some grills on some of the sidings of the buildings or so that we can give some kind of a feeling of openness or something.
Sorry, where are you?
I'm looking at
The kiosk.
I'm looking at either here or
Yeah.
for the
Oh,
building.
the
or
storage.
here.
Little grills.
Yeah.
Does the motion maker accept that into the motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the seconder.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
No, that's great. Good points. All right.
Very good.
Great.
Thank you.
That is going to be an improvement.
We're not always mean.
Yes, I need those.
All right, so now we have item 5. We're now back on schedule for 801 State Street.
The man.
All right.
Application review.
All right. So we have a pre-application review. The Las Tiendas building, constructed in 1925 in the Spanish colonial revival style, is a designated structure of merit. Proposal for a one-time pre-application consultation for a 2,700 square foot third-story addition comprised of 2 residential units on the existing 2-story commercial building. Project will require a parking modification and an open yard modification for the residential units. One-time pre-application consultation, no final appealable decision will be made at this hearing.
One time, that's all
One
you
time,
got.
that's
Yep,
right.
yeah.
Make it good.
Make it good.
All right, please state
Make
your
it
name for
count.
the record.
Brian Cornell. So we have actually spent some time talking with Pam and Tim, Pam Post and Tim Hazeltine about this, and with Nicole, because this is a structure of merit. And so we felt it was best, before we go too far on this, that we float this idea and get the commission's thought on it. Here you can see, this is actually from your book, Steve.
And I brought my book just in case you didn't produce that.
And so it was originally a bank building. You can see that it has been modified. The arch that was here in the corners was modified, and some of the balconies that were here match the balconies that went along De La Guerra, et cetera, et cetera. So certainly if we proceeded with this, our intent would be to, modify this to the greatest extent possible to bring it back to that original thing, certainly put the arch back in the corner. So the issue here is really, how do you add a third story to this? And my first, before I thought a lot about it, my first natural instinct was just, gosh, this actually would be a beautiful little building if I just extruded, a simple extrusion up from the third, or from the second floor to the third floor. But Nicole reminded me of the Secretary of the Interior Standards and needing to not, somehow maintain that difference between buildings. And so this is why I wanted to really float it by you, because it doesn't make sense to me, and it becomes a very funny building if I were to maintain this mansard and go up from that. Obviously, it would constrain the amount of area you'd have, and there's not much. You can see from the floor plan, it's not a very big footprint. So the idea here is to do some sort of a cornice line, whether it has some tile element to it, or whether it's all done with plaster or whatever, to at least carry forth what is currently that eave line, and then still essentially do the extrusion, but keep the plane of that third floor back at least some amount from the plane of the first and second floor to also help differentiate it. So these would break by some amount, 8 inches or something like that. So that is the idea. I just did this quick little sketch to kind of give you a feeling for what it would look like. The idea is to put 2 residential units, which would be allowed per the zoning, on the upper floor. And they obviously would not be able to meet the open space and parking requirements, because this is all we have in terms of property. But that would be for, a future process, should you all decide that this has some merit. So that's
Okay.
why I'm here. I don't know if Nicole, if
Okay,
you wanted
Nicole,
to
did
add
you wanna-
anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that it has to meet CEQA, and so we have to meet the Secretary of Interior standards, which the big standard that we're relating to is number 9, new additions and exterior alterations will not destroy historic materials, features, and spatial relationships that characterize the property. So the new work will be differentiated from the old and be compatible with historic materials, features, size, scale, and proportion, and massing to the project. So the Secretary of Interior has some guidelines, not the actual standards, but they sort of always recommend pulling it back on the roof, but we don't have a lot of space here. So we also have to make the finding that it's restoring or enhancing the building. So those are what we have to look for. We kind of thought it would be best to come to you all and see what you think of this, and then we can move forward in discussing if we think it can meet the standards and make the findings, if we need a full structures report.
Yeah, presumably we'll have to, because it is a structure of merit, we'll do a phase 2. And so depending on where you all feel, how you all feel today, then we'll develop actual elevations and refine that and work with Pam and Tim to do that phase 2.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Thank you. Okay, so that's the end of your.
Bill?
All right, so we'll open public comment. Anyone from the public? Oh, sorry. Sorry, that's me.
The public's phoning in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Phone a friend. All right, open public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to comment on this? All right, seeing none, I will close public comment and back to the board for questions. All right, Commissioner, we'll start down. Commissioner Uli.
First question, dual question to the applicant and staff. Because the Department of Interior standards have 4 categories, is this projected to fit under rehabilitation?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's the most lenient of the standards to allow this to happen.
Yes, it is the most. In their guidelines on rooftop additions, they really like them pulled back because in big cities they have rooftop additions all the time. So we haven't seen that many here yet.
They like glass boxes on roofs.
Yes, they do.
They like them to be really different, the Secretary of Interior, typically less than local communities. We like them to be more.
Well, we know that's not going to happen here.
Right, we know. We had.
Thanks.
You're the Secretary of City Standards.
Yeah.
All right, so Commissioner Uli, did you have any questions? Commissioner Nemec, questions? Commissioner Lendick, questions? Commissioner Boehner, questions? Commissioner House, you got
My
any
only
questions?
question would be, you represented that there were 2 residential units, and they're labeled number 2 and 3, so I'm wondering.
Really?
Nice
What
one.
was I thinking?
We approved it.
Late at night.
Yeah. You can see I worked really long and hard on these sketches.
They're almost working drawings.
All right, so no other questions?
2.
Commissioner House?
Only 2.
No, that's it.
Commissioner Mahan?
Are you, this tile that you're showing, are you thinking of a roof?
Yes.
Not
I would-
just a
would-
parapet?
I was thinking that I would do a similar mansard, do wood corbels at that addition.
That's my question.
All right, Commissioner
Oh,
Edmonds?
wait a minute, I have one other question. So you're showing the arch on the corner, restoring the arch on the corner. And then I notice that there's an arch at the other end down here. You're showing an arch in the middle here, or is that just?
You're showing this arch.
Am I being too
and
critical?
These look like they're arch, but you have arch, big.
Oh, yeah, those look like they're all arches, but they've got two awnings in them.
So this
Yeah,
one's
they were-
combined.
It was an arch, so I was showing that this one would be restored back, but unfortunately, you can see that that has been, that double opening has done away with the the single opening has done away with the double, so I really can't do much with that. But I was going to put it back here in what is now just a small window. But again, that was, with the intent would be to go back and find, have, with Pam and Tim's help, just make sure that we're trying to restore as much of that original detail. The main thing being, the balconies would match in front and in the side where they do not today. That kind of thing.
Do you have the original working drawings for this building?
I don't, no. But we
Is
haven't.
this 1925?
Haven't looked hard for them.
Is this a pre-earthquake building?
Yeah, I think it is.
So it stood up,
I think it is. What does it say?
You know who the architect was?
I don't think it is.
Page it is.
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either.
I think
I
it
think
was
it's
a
post.
remake. Probably Victorian underneath.
Close.
801. We
It
have
says
a-
1925 A.C. Sanders,
Yeah.
early 1925.
I think Pam and Tim did say that they thought it was pre-earthquake.
Remains one of Santa Barbara's
Maybe it was
pre-earthquake
right.
Hispanic-style
Wow.
structures.
Well, there's
Okay.
the author speaking.
All right. Right before the earthquake. All right. I did have a question. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Edmonds.
And I do have a question. I apologize for my lack of knowledge here. It's a second floor office. It's 2 residential units and an office going on?
2 residential units on the new 3rd floor.
This is the second.
This is the existing second floor. Okay.
Yeah, the second floor. The first floor would continue to operate as it is. The second floor would then be converted back to office space. It was part of the old Rock's Restaurant and has been, you can see from the floor plan here, the second floor is sort of an open space. And I am imagining that I would potentially, and this is probably important to disclose, I was thinking about doing away with the continuous arcade around this and try to at least capture a little more office space, but keep it along the De La Guerra side.
And so how do you access, or how would you access these 2 residential units? Is it a stairwell outside? Is that what this is?
It's this stairwell, and believe it or not, I can still do access to 2 units with a single stairway on the 3rd floor.
And no elevator.
And no elevator, because it's less than 3 units, so it doesn't have to fall under Chapter 11 of the CBC.
And are you imagining that will be gated and off limits to the public then?
The stair?
At some point, at street level or wherever?
The 3rd level.
Well, I understand that these are at the 3rd level.
Yeah, I mean, the stair is going to have to fit down here on that 1st floor, and so there's undoubtedly some things that would have to be moved, and that would require reconfiguration of the 1st floor. So there is a lot of that detail that needs to be worked out.
Thank you.
And that would be residents-only stair, not a public stair that just...
At least from the second floor.
Yeah, at least from the second floor, yeah.
Okay, any other questions? And Commissioner Mann, you didn't have any other questions, did you?
What?
Did you have any other questions?
I have no other questions.
Okay, so the question I have was, so the, let me just get this pointer. So have you considered the Sunglasses Hut going back to the 2 arches, and have you looked at that as a possibility? I know that
The issue I know that exists is just that they have a long lease right now, so it wouldn't be able to be something that would be accomplished.
as part of this.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's all my questions. Comments, Commissioner Uli?
I'm glad that you disclosed that you want to get rid of the second floor balcony, but I would encourage you to keep it facing State Street and not De La Guerra.
Okay.
I like the suggested break and trim between the 2nd and 3rd. Be interested to see how that gets actually resolved. That's it.
Commissioner Nemec?
I think it's a supportable project. Sad to see the 2nd floor eating space disappear on the Broad House. That's a rare opportunity here in Santa Barbara to look down on the people while you eat, but it's a nice project overall.
Commissioner Lembeck?
I think this is a very nice project, and I hope this is the first of many we see trying to get residential into the downtown area. And I would certainly hope that we would encourage staff hearing officer or planning commission, whoever deals with, to grant a parking modification and a yard modification. I think it's entirely appropriate for the kind of living that might occur downtown. So I would encourage it, yes.
Commissioner Vena?
I just have one question. I like the thought of the deck over here, and maybe like what is the building over there near Opals where you have an open deck and you can see out to the people and so forth, and giving it a nice feeling in here, indoors, outdoors.
Oh, I see. Inside the unit, give it some, yeah. Understood.
And maybe more open, whatever, depending on the fenestration.
Okay.
I'd like to see a tree right in the middle of the one.
Question down
Yeah,
here.
Commissioner Edmonds?
Did this used to be the Swarovski Crystal?
No, that was
space?
up further.
This was the Rock Restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah, it was rocks.
And Delaney Jewelers.
Used to be Delaney's Jewelers.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, Commissioner House?
Well, I agree with the comments that have been made. I think this has great promise, and I think the approach is great. I remember when I was last on HLC, there was a similar proposal, maybe 2005, something like that. It was a lot more complex because I think it involved dining space up on a patio on the top, so it was really hard integrating it to look like it was the right thing to add on top of that building. So I think this is definitely the right direction and serves a need for residential. So I'm looking forward to seeing model views so we can really assess it in the context.
All right. Commissioner Mahan?
Yeah, I want to support housing downtown, additional housing downtown. There is, this isn't a fairly high zone of benefit for parking.
Yeah, it's 100%.
Well, then I don't see why the Planning Commission can't give you a break on the parking.
Well, but that only applies to commercial, not residential.
Well,
That's the, yeah.
What I think will be important when you come back is to show us a little more of the streetscape so that we can evaluate the size, bulk, and scale as it relates to its neighboring buildings. And because it's on a corner, maybe a perspective from across the street would be important. I think that's the thing that we want to be encouraged to approve is how it relates to the
Balboa, like you're thinking from the Balboa building and then to
yeah,
Paseo
well, the
Nuevo.
Balboa building's on the other side, and then on this, what's
Paseo
along?
Nuevo.
Yeah, what's along here? Let's
Theater.
see how and the fact that you sort of are expressing this as a separate element, it might come up and be expressed as a tower, and I think that would help to mitigate the size, bulk, and scale because the other elements then would be smaller in comparison to the tower. So you might study that.
You make it 4 stories, though, really.
4 stories, no. And the just a little bit of history. Bill Hall, the architect, had his office on that corner there in 1961 when I interviewed him for a job.
Really? Was that before Al Visione?
Yeah, it was. He was all alone.
Huh.
And he wanted to stay alone.
And then he got with a cigar smoker.
Anyway, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Edmonds, any other comments? Okay, so I guess the one comment I would have that wasn't echoed, because I think there's a lot of positive things about it, is I would say that at least this front portion, I would have a hard time going for this as in terms of if this is a historic resource and wanting it this. I mean, this is a pretty strong move as in terms of character. I could even see this, especially because Balboa building's here and very large, and you're kind of in your face on this side of things, and so your experience is really only this lower portion anyways. I would be fine with going up to there in this move, but I still think the front of State Street, that portion needs to be respected in some way in terms of for my opinion, and in terms of what I would want to support. I think that bringing it back and all the elements that you have are great and are a super supportable thing and a great bonus to the building. But then when I look at that main street facade elevation that you're going to see, it really is, it drastically changes what it looks like from the main public view. And so I think that's a detriment to the historic resource that hopefully can be avoided. So I think it's super important. I mean, I'd be supportive of all this, but if this roof stayed down on this portion, I think then at least you can read the original, and maybe step it back and fill it up here, but at least a portion of this roof red. I think that would be, then I'd be completely supportive of it. That's my own feelings.
One additional comment, I'm not opposed to any open space on the roof. If it worked out that the residents had a spot that they shared among themselves on the roof.
I would agree with that as well. For myself, but other commissioners can weigh in on that.
That could be their recreation space.
Yeah.
As long as I don't string lights up there.
Yes.
You watch it. That's the moral of the story.
Only on a party.
Okay. Thank you. That's
And then leave 'em up.
what we needed.
Okay, so do we, is this the
Indefinite,
one time?
yeah.
So just.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chair, it's not an indefinite, it's just providing the applicant with comments.
We don't need a motion, or we should?
So it's just comments, but if you'd like.
Those comments? Yeah.
But would you like to go through your comments? that you've done?
You did such a great job last time, why don't you? I'll just tell you if you missed one.
Okay.
Start with Ed's comment, which was very nice project.
Yeah.
There we go. We can start with that one. Nice tie. Okay. All right, so I'm looking for a motion with, or do you want to make the comments first, and then we can make a motion?
I don't think there is a motion involved. It's just comments.
It's just comments,
Not-
yeah.
okay. All
So
right.
the comments I had, Mr. Chair, was that the board finds it is a good project and a good approach to provide additional housing downtown, and could be supportive of a parking modification and open yard modification. Keep the balcony at the second floor facing State Street, but not De La Guerra was suggested. Provide streetscape renderings showing adjacent buildings, so the size, bulk, and scale of the project can be better evaluated. A portion, and this one, Mr. Chair, this is your comment, a portion of the roof facing State Street should be maintained to better protect the historic resource. And the commission would not be opposed to providing open space at the roof of the project.
Mr. Chair, I think you should add, we appreciate the restoration of the arches and the
Yes.
facades.
Yep.
And if I can, just that last comment about the roof, maybe, I don't know whether we should talk more about that, because that was your last comment, and I didn't hear that from any other board
Yeah.
members, so it could have.
How do other board members feel about that? It basically means this portion right here.
Which does
which is-
away
which
with
is
Bill's
this.
idea of a tower.
Yes.
Oh, your comment about taking away.
I'm saying if you held this portion and then popped up everything else,
Yeah.
that would at least allow this to still read as.
I think that I can't comment on that until I see some studies of what the building looks like.
I agree.
Would you rather it
Okay,
be
so-
phrased as study?
Like a study of
Yeah,
those.
and maybe one member suggested studying that. I mean, I'm worried that could, from an economic standpoint, that's going to peel that, one of those units way back, and it may at that point not even make sense. So that's the only
Mr.
issue.
Chair, you can have it as a comment that one commissioner suggested
Yeah.
that.
We'll leave it as a commissioner.
I think that when we use the word study, we'd be happy to see several different possibilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
My
Commissioner Limbeck?
my opinion is that I think that the facade of that State Street third floor being flush with the balance of the facade is probably very, very appropriate. You look at maybe in plan of a group of buildings down, a street, and what you want to do is you want to see those fronts line up and not go in and out.
And actually, I should have opened with that, because actually, I think as a design-wise, if this was a new building, I would want this
Yes.
rather than
Yeah.
stepping back.
Yeah.
The only reason I even bring it up, because I'm against wedding caking in general, but the only reason I bring it up is only because of the historic nature
Yeah,
of this.
you're gonna.
It's a concern of mine, which I think is, and I'm grounding it in in the standards of keeping those, all the other ways in which we've treated historic resources, which have been to allow additions and encourage additions to the back and encourage livability of it, but trying to keep the original as the original from the main public view. So that's my thinking for it from the historic side of things.
There's two schools of thought, because a lot of commercial buildings do go up really well, and you just move the roof line up and adding a layer, but then it diminishes the ability for the public to understand which is the original, which isn't. And there's two schools. I mean, I have in my experience seen both, and I think it makes I agree with you, a more successful result in that you have this continuous building. So it's something we're going to have to really look at, and then the phase two, hopefully we can come to a way that we can get the project done.
And I would add to that we don't want to introduce anything that isn't there or suggest something that tries to fix something that doesn't need to be fixed.
I agree.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. It's nice to be able to have these quick little concept reviews. And
good for us, too. So we don't have to give you a Bronx cheer.
All right, we are.
We need to break.
18 minutes ahead of schedule, so.
Yes, so
we'll
Mr.
break.
Chair, we'll need to take at least a 5-minute break. Thank you.
All right, 5-minute break. Okay, reconvening Historic Landmarks Commission. On to item number 6, new concept review for 633 East Cabrillo Boulevard. This is a proposal for improvements at the Hilton Santa Barbara Beachfront Resort, located in El Pueblo Viejo Landmarks District and in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone. Project includes a remodel to the existing bar patio area, including hardscape and landscape improvements, removal and replacement of a low sight wall, addition of a new low sight wall, gates, a glass windscreen, and an anodized aluminum pergola. Concept review, no final appealable decision will be made at this hearing. All right, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
You have to pull the microphone over, yeah, and speak into it closely.
I'm Carl Schaefer, principal of Ideation Design Group, representing Hilton. First off, the rebranding of this facility to under the Hilton flag has been a great success. And one of the things that Hilton's gone through each piece of the property, and they've realized that the existing Set restaurant, which is the only casual dining facility that does lunch and dinner, has been a little underutilized. One of the reasons is the patio. During the daytime, it is very hot, very bright. So you'd notice that there's some umbrellas out there. They don't do the job. And then in the evenings, it's rather cold out there with the breeze coming in off the ocean. And they put in some portable heaters, and they don't do the job either. So the solution that we've all come up with was a pergola, a permanent pergola over the entire patio, and a windscreen that would be stop the wind coming in from off the ocean. The windscreen would not be similar to the one that's at Santa Barbara Inn or the Hyatt down the street. Around the pool areas, they are straight up. You get all the reflection off the cars and everything. What we're going to do is we're proposing to cant the glass so that you wouldn't even notice that there would be a glass screen around the patio area. The pergola, I know we said anodized aluminum. We've had conversations with our client, and we'll probably think that wood is probably a better solution. That way we get some corbels and get some articulation to it. And the columns would be obviously some precast.
Why don't you walk through the set with us?
Okay.
That way we can kind of see it.
So this is the existing patio as it stands.
Okay.
Right now.
And then here, I'll give you a pointer.
There's a large opening right here, which currently doesn't meet the ABC laws. ABC laws says you have to have a gated area. So the object is to close off some of this area here. When you do that, now we have a exiting problem because we're over 50 occupants on the patio, so we have to create a second patio exit here, gated exit. We're keeping the raised fire pit. When we said we were going to remove and replace the wall around here, there's a couple reasons. Number one, it's just one course of CMU. It has no beef, doesn't look very good. It also has all the piping for the gas and the gas meter on the outside of the wall. So we're going to bury it inside. So the windscreen would be around the perimeter here. The pergola itself, we'd create some of these precast columns, finish them off the same as the slow wall. We also finished the same materials as the hotel itself, and then come out with the pergola and some cross beams for to create the shade that we need there. And then suspended from the actual pergola itself would be patio heaters, very similar to Santa Barbara Inn's, the linear heaters. What we're also going to do, and I think hopefully you'll like this line, so we're going to get rid of the string lights.
You've been watching.
Right now, the string lights are tied from the palm trees back to the building. And we'd incorporate lighting inside the pergola that would just be downlights. So this is a little bit different from the ones at Santa Barbara Inn and the pergola there and the glass screen and then with the Hyatt because those are right on the property line, right along Cabrillo. This is set back about 300 feet from the street. And it's going to be minuscule when you look back at it. So the elevations, and obviously we'll create more details and some corbels as we do wood. When this was aluminum, that wasn't possible, and it was a pretty sterile pergola. So we're talking about coming to the top of the pergola at just 11 feet, just below 11 feet. The windscreen would be to 6 feet tall.
6 feet on top of the wall?
No, 6 feet overall.
Okay.
And here's a detail that I've done since then, showing how the windscreen itself would work with the cant so that it cuts the reflection out.
Okay.
That's not.
Page A5, but
I did
this is a
yesterday
new.
when
Yes,
I
not on
realized
here.
that
No,
what
this
I was
is-
going to talk about, I said, I should show a detail.
So this is not on your guys. This
What's
is
the
an
angle?
updated.
What's the percent?
It's about 15, just a little under 15 degrees.
It doesn't even look that much.
Yeah, it looks like it's
Five.
five.
So is that
Maybe- I think we said-
Thank you. I'm asking questions. That's not time for questions yet.
We did actually a study to try to see how much we had to do from Cabrillo to try to get the what's that? Just a little to get again that light and looks like then glass looks like plexiglass and it doesn't. It's not very attractive.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to show us pictures of where or the project in general? Give us a feel.
Again, it faces out towards Cabrillo. It's right next to the roundhouse. It would just be north of the roundhouse. So it's this area right in the back here where those umbrellas are.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, you why don't you use the pointer?
Yeah. Sorry. I'll take a look at the pictures. This one also, it's just over on this side, right over here. That's not a good picture of it. These are existing pictures that were sent to us by Hilton. So, yeah,
We
this
can
is the
get
best picture.
City TV to zoom in.
Yep.
Yeah. There you go. If you'd stop moving it, you could zoom in on it.
Nah, nah, nah.
Yeah.
Pretty ominous.
It's this area right there.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So is that does that complete your presentation?
That completes my
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so now we'll open public comment. Any member from the public wishing to comment? And seeing none, I will close public comment and to the board for questions. So, Commissioner Edmonds?
No, I have no questions.
All right, Commissioner Mahan?
So the wall, the existing wall, this is a brick wall, right?
It is. And
Flipped off when we had our break. It's a brick wall with tile on top, that's what you're going to keep?
no, we were thinking about taking it more and putting the white stucco on.
You're going to
the
stucco
wall.
that wall?
New CMU?
With a tile cap, though.
Tile or brick? You have brick on here.
Is that brick?
With plaster finish, matches specifically and brick top cap.
This,
With a brick top,
Oh, matching that.
yes.
but it's going to be
Plaster
taller than
underneath.
that.
But it'll be white plaster, yes.
But that's only about 2 feet tall.
Yeah.
And this is only 2 feet tall as well.
Yes.
I see, okay.
Looks like it's a little more than a third of that 6 feet, but 2.5 feet at most, maybe.
I think it came up to tabletop height.
You want to see these?
Yeah, 30 would be
Tabletop top is 30 inches.
That would make sense, so you don't see the edges of tables.
Where is it?
Everywhere but.
We'll put this here as well. Okay. So Commissioner Mahan, did you have any more questions?
I have no more questions.
Okay, Commissioner House. Sorry.
No
Commissioner Mayhouse.
questions. Yeah, Mayhouse. Maytag.
Commissioner Vena.
Will you be saving the palm trees or plant a tree and so on?
We want to. We want to save the palm trees that are inside and replant them back outside.
Okay.
Yes. Landscape plan.
All right, Commissioner Lundvik.
Yeah, just to clarify, so these horizontal beams are all aluminum?
No. We originally proposed aluminum, then when we discussed when we were working out the presentation, we said, there's not enough articulation. We can't do corbels. When we realized we had to come to the landmark committee, that we need something that's a little more keeping with the architecture.
The rim beam probably is going to need to be deeper to feel good.
Yeah,
Is that a question?
Well, it's a question. Yeah. So when I look at
deeper if it's heavy timber anyway.
Yeah. When I look at A4, the reflected ceiling plan.
Okay, hold on one second. Let's get to that.
The smaller elements that are shown there, are they aluminum as well, or what?
We're going to build the entire thing out of wood now.
So,
out of heavy timber
and are they then?
They're going to be canted also to get.
Are they going to be on top of the
in between?
In between.
So this is just a cover over the door.
Right.
These guys.
It's the only question I have.
Did you have a question, Commissioner?
I was just trying to figure out what the question was.
Okay. All right. We'll go to Commissioner Nemec. Commissioner Nemec, any questions? No questions?
No questions.
All right. I have one question. Just wanting to know about inspiration. Have you looked at any inspiration yet for columns or trellises or things that are any Santa Barbara examples that are inspiring you?
No, but we will.
Okay.
I'll actually drive around this afternoon still. Oh, good. Before my flight and take some pictures.
Mr. Chair, I have another question.
Sure, man.
When I look at the elevation, it looks like well, first of all, the biggest members in a trellis are called girders, and the secondary members are called beams, and then the third are called lattice or latios or something like that. What?
Twigs?
Trellis. But when I look at the elevation, it looks like the beams are sitting on top of the girders. But when I look at the plan, it looks like the beams are coming in. They're not on top of the girders. They look like they're coming into the girder. Which way is it?
No, it's got to be the way the structure works. So, not the way my draftsman.
Yeah, and is that a reflective ceiling plan, or is that?
Well, it's not a reflected ceiling
It's
plan.
the way my structural engineer says it.
Yeah.
Which is right. But the intermediate areas are between the beams themselves.
So these don't really reflect what you're thinking now, these drawings?
That was more conceptual, just to make sure that we can,
Thank you.
The landscape, that the landmarks would prove us moving forward.
So I had a question regarding this shape. So where is this? It's existing shape, and you're going to remove it, and then you're going to rebuild in that same spot. Was there any thinking behind changing the shape? And the main reason I'm bringing that up is because of your column location, and you're now building a whole giant structure, and it's complex. And
our original thought about 6 months ago was to make it larger. But then we were going to have to go to the Coastal Commission. We were going to have to do a lot of planning, additional planning, and additional calculations and stuff, and so Hilton said, no, let's just keep it the existing footprint.
Okay.
Yeah, so to jump off of that, because I remember when an initial plan was discussed to enlarge this patio area, and because it's in the coastal jurisdiction, any increase, especially with seating, is required to, you're required to park those additional seats, which would require a coastal development permit. And, that's a more arduous process, of course.
Gotcha. And so, just as a follow-up question, if the size was the same square footage but a different shape, how does that?
As far as changing the configuration, that might not necessarily, we would look at it. It would probably be a coastal exemption rather than a coastal development permit, but definitely increasing seating in any manner would.
Okay, got it. That's the main trigger. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's all my questions as well. So Commissioner Edmonds, did you want to start us off with comments?
No, I have no comments. Sorry.
Okay. Commissioner Mahan?
Yeah, I think that I don't oppose a pergola out here. I think a pergola is okay, but I think that trying to fit a pergola into this very, very random shaped patio is very problematic if it's going to be a traditional pergola. I'm looking at this particular picture here, and you can, where's the pointer? Thank you. You can see up here at the top of the steps there is a existing pergola. It's very traditional in Spanish, and it's got a square column. Personally, I think we should stay with square columns and simple column, much simpler than this round column with the.
Commissioner Nemeth, I think this is saying this has it here as well.
It's kind of the way that the second level is there.
Yeah.
I think that would be more in keeping with the existing architecture than trying to go with such a complicated column and capital. And I think that the pergola has to be rethought. I'm glad to hear that it is going to be heavy timber, and it needs to be girders, beams, and latios in some pattern that maybe you can't come off of that wall. That's too hard to design, and the pergola should maybe stand by itself in some way. I don't know. So I guess what I'm saying is that the pergola as a concept is okay. I'm okay with that, but I'm not okay with it as it is presented. I think it should be much more in keeping with the existing architecture, and it should be very, very traditional and meet our guidelines completely. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner House.
Well, I will keep the comments simple because you have a lot of redesigning to do, and I'll start by saying thank you for right off the bat saying it wasn't going to be anodized aluminum, because that was a big red flag to see that. So you've got all the right elements. You've got the masonry wall and columns and the rustic brick cap and timber trellis. But right now, the layout of the columns has nothing to do with the layout of the walls. So obviously, you'll have some more flexibility with the wood system, but you seriously ought to consider the configuration of that wall so that you're not beating your head against the wall trying to make the trellis fit to this odd shape.
Pilar, if we go with the same square footage or less, we would be okay.
Yeah, so my suggestion at this point in time, we evaluate whether or not a project can qualify for a coastal exemption for a coastal development permit. It could potentially qualify for a coastal exemption if you reoriented because it's still serving the same purpose. That's how we would most likely evaluate it. The real trigger for a coastal development permit is whether or not you're intensifying the use. So
yeah, this restaurant serves basically the hotel itself. It is so far off the road that there is no foot traffic to it.
So what I would suggest is if you study that, that would be something staff would evaluate to see if it would still qualify for an exemption.
So I would also add, I think it's understood, but make sure that wall height is high enough to hide the tables.
Gotcha.
And as far as the glass windscreen, I think that's a great idea to angle it, but that at the same time you should do a study to make sure that low sun angles in the winter don't blind people because they get reflected. I mean, as you start to tilt back, then the sun angles are going to get
out as opposed to in.
Maybe, yeah. So look at that. And also looking at the elevations, it looked very undesigned the way the glass wall stopped and started around the fire pit. And so maybe...
Thinking about actually continuing behind the fire pit.
Yeah, that would probably make more sense.
Having that break in the wind wall doesn't create, it creates a wind
it
tunnel
negates
now.
the purpose, yeah.
Yeah.
And replanting those trees on the outside helps make your eyes focus on the trees more than the glass walls.
Just looking at if we actually just square this off here, we have
Yeah.
some nice landscape areas on the
Yeah.
outside of the wall now.
Yeah.
We can just move them.
All right. Any other comments, Commissioner House?
Nope.
All right. Commissioner Vena?
Oh, well, I'm concerned about the landscaping, what you're going to be taking out, where it's going to be placed, perhaps additional vines and so forth for color and so on that might be working out.
Yeah, we are going to take a large landscaping area out right here for the second exit from the patio.
And then how
Has
the
to
lighting
come
will
out
be
this way.
handled, so it doesn't become light pollution and so on.
It's going to be all down lights, no up lights.
Yeah.
All right.
So you should return with some information on how you propose to light it.
Yep. Okay.
Because we get one more
Commissioner
go around here, right? Is that what I need? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with seeing the landscape plans and maybe if mine's going up the trellis or something like that. I agree with the square columns and basically everything else that was said.
Okay. Commissioner Uli?
I also agree with those comments and would suggest for, to be very specific about what our guidelines say. Page 55, item R, pergolas and trellises, has a nice example in that book. So if you don't have that book, I think it's online. And for this glass screen enclosure, one of these had the detail on it. I don't know if I... Excellent, thank you. It shows, at least in your detail, that the enclosure is mounted and supported by steel. So as long as that steel is anodized, some dark color, and not shiny steel.
That was going to be powder coated.
I think I'm okay with that, but it should not be shiny. And with respect to the tilt of the glass, the Boathouse did a similar enclosure around their outdoor patio, and they concluded that it had to be tilted out because of that sun issue that was raised.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. And the only other comment I would add or refine to those comments would be that for this, not for the pergola shape and proposal, and I think you were starting to go there, is that it's not whatever works. I mean, even if, for example, if they came back with saying no, if you change any single little bit of this hardscape, it triggers something or whatever. Even that, just in terms of the pergola, needs to be simple in terms of its overall shape. So however that ends up being a smaller pergola or whatever, I think that's more important, the simplicity of the pergola, than conforming to everything, so or covering everything. So, okay. So this was just concept review. But perhaps we can make a motion with those comments. And would it be for a 2-week continuance?
Mr. Chair, I would suggest
When do we have to have it in for the next meeting?
So plans would need to be in by the 10th, which is next Wednesday, and yeah, okay.
Okay.
All
right. So with let me take a shot at these comments, I guess, would be and then if you have any, I can add to it. With the shape of the pergola and the beam configuration needs to be reworked, more simple and traditional. The beams need to be wood, and with details to match, or at least the square piers with details to match the existing or similar. The lighting, we appreciate the removal of the lighting, the current lighting, the string lighting, and look forward to seeing how you're going to be lighting the space with hooded lights.
You're asking, when I
For
come back, I'll
for
bring
lighting,
all that.
yeah, for lighting
back,
plans,
yes.
specs, and
Sure.
all those things. The just to be specific about this, the anodized aluminum was not okay, and we like that you're going to the wood. We were okay with that, with tilting the glass, but it needs to be restudied in terms of which direction to be tilted. We wanted the glass to continue around the fire pit as well, have a more continuous feel. The replanting the plants on the outside was liked.
Trees and
as well as
landscaping.
inclusion of additional landscaping, trees, and possible vines with colored vines. We need a landscape plan, of course. And I think that was all of my notes.
Mr.
The wall height to hide the tables.
30 inches.
Yeah, I was going to add that.
Okay.
Maybe you could add, the trellis should have a traditional 3-stack of the trellis
Okay, yes,
elements.
And corbelled ends.
All right.
Yeah,
All right, with those additional comments.
corbels, yes.
And
We all,
Any
Mr.
other
Chair, yeah, we
discussion?
also like to instruct your structural engineer to make the connections as invisible as possible.
Yes.
I saw that one coming. That makes sense,
Nice
yes.
plates are your friend.
Yeah.
Okay. With those comments, any additional comments?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Oh, I heard Uli. Is Uli
Okay.
seconded? Okay, he was faster.
Sorry,
than
Bill.
Brock.
Fine, he's,
Okay.
he's fast.
You got a few.
But that was a 2-week continuance?
Big continuance with those comments.
Yes.
All right, first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries unanimously. All
In
right.
favor of
Good
adjournment?
job.
Yes.
I second. Any,
Mr. Chair,
we are
can you
adjourned.
Burglars in town
Yeah.
that you think are rather
Maybe
Rather nice.
take a look at the